in the locker room. This is before the game ended. Before the game ended, she comes out in the locker room and posts this. Like, what are we doing?
Sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, is anybody on this team gonna stand up for Caitlin Clark? JC Sheldon grabbing Caitlin Clark all game, clawing at her. It's like tonight was a brawl, folks. Tonight was a brawl, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, is anybody on this team going to stand up for? And Sophie Cunningham.
You're not prepared for this level of spicy drama, because when Sophie Cunningham lost it, she didn't just clap back. Instead, she went full Avengers mode on the entire Sun team. Buckle up, this one is hotter than Angel Reese's Twitter feed. What happens when Sophie turns into a one-woman wrecking crew and bodyguards Caitlin Clark? Like it's her sworn WNBA mission? Oh, just a complete meltdown on the court, chaos in the Sun locker room, and Sophie handing out smoke like it's buy one get one free.
And let's start with the play that set off the entire night. So as you guys can see here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin Clark. She swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin Clark nudges her off because JC stays in her face. And then Tina Charles runs over and is kind of wagging her finger in Caitlin Clark's face. And then Marina Mabrey comes out of nowhere and chucks her to the floor. Now let's watch this in slow motion. Here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin, swipes her in the face.
To send Sophie Cunningham didn't show up to hoop, but rather to handle business, by which we mean personally escorting Caitlin Clark out of every low-key ambush and cheap shot, like she was protecting a royal jewel in a street fight the WNBA as a whole ought to have obtained insurance the moment she clocked in for her shift.
We had fighting, we had blonde on blonde crime. Oh, such an epidemic. Oh, goodness. But at the end of the day, it resulted in an Indiana Fever W. 88-71, taking care of business.
You try to push Caitlin, but Sophie teleports in like a WWE tag team, ready to destroy your shoe deal and your dental alignment in one move. You bump Clark. After the whistle, congratulations. You've unleashed the full force of a professional enforcer with a jump shot. And no consideration for your feelings. Sophie is acting like a Secret Service agent who doubles as a demolition crew.
I'm not having it. We'll go. We'll go. So there's that. That, of course, was all a byproduct of this right here, folks. And I mean, when I tell you social media is setting the WNBA on fire right now, not in a good way.
The court becomes her courtroom. She is rendering decisions rather than asking questions. And the punishment is always the same. Maximum pressure. It's domination by proxy, not protection. Sophie is an expert at using body language. That makes even the most aggressive veterans hesitate before approaching the edge, such as the soul-snatching look, the try-me body language, and the well-timed shoulder check.
Whether it is intentional or not, you can still have a flagrant a flagrant foul called on you, whether you are trying to intentionally hurt somebody or not. But this is what they called, you guys. This is what they called. Caitlin Clark, Marina Mabrey, Tina Charles were assessed with technical fouls on Tuesday. Caitlin, Marina, and Tina Charles. Technical fouls. That's it. Technical fouls. That's it. And JC Sheldon was assessed with a flagrant 1 foul, and no players were ejected.
Expects the drama as if she's been reading the opponent's group chat all week. If there's even the slightest hint of animosity, she's already inbound. After the game, Sophie Cunningham is not available for embraces. She only uses one frequency and doesn't hold hands during warm-ups or tap it up during shoot-arounds, while others engage in mindfulness and team-building activities. The WNBA's walking alarm system is always on high alert. Touch Clark, and you touch death. The league isn't used to this kind of unshakable commitment combined with Sophie's out here doing silent background checks with her eyes if she makes any suspect movements toward Clark. You might as well call in a physician. Intensity of nuclear radiation, her presence alone is enough to make sideline reporters shift uneasily and teammates silently thank the basketball gods that she's on their side. This isn't energy you teach, it's instinct she's not walking into games with a Zen playlist and a motivational quote. Instead, she's stomping into arenas like she's hunting for a reason, any reason, to activate the chaos. Since defenders used to play like bouncers with unrestricted access, the league hasn't had this kind of erratic devotion. Cunningham has taken that tradition, given it a new look, and added a refusal to put up with even the slightest hint of disrespect.
First off, Marina Mabrey body checking Caitlin Clark to the ground. J.C. Sheldon all over her. Riding her. Pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye. Oh, man. Caitlin Clark needs to start wearing goggles, folks. Caitlin Clark's going to need to start wearing goggles. Bumps up on Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark says, "Get your hands off me." And then here comes Marina Mabrey. Boom! Exploding Caitlin Clark like a safety coming downhill in the NFL. There was no flop there.
This kind of unrepentant ride-or-die enthusiasm hasn't been seen in the WNBA in years. It's akin to Dennis Rodman with a female boss twist and a long-standing resentment of passive aggressiveness. Let's get real. Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA with a goal so large, it likely constitutes its own zip code. Cunningham doesn't simply show up there. She throws herself into the middle of the storm and challenges it to blow harder. The rookie with the golden range was the enemy of the month every month, not just by the defense, with entire rosters around her as if it were open season. Players gathered not to test her skill, but to try to break her spirit. However, Sophie Cunningham was watching every move like a hawk that skipped brunch and was ready to feast. Some brought their game faces, while others brought petty grudges, old rivalries, and unresolved issues that had nothing to do with her but were unloaded anyway.
The Indiana Fever, some of these girls on this team are finally fed up. Once again, WNBA, we're not talking about your basketball. We're talking about the WNBA, WWE Raw circus that you got going on right now. And we all know this incident with Sophie stems from the incident that was clearly not handled correctly by the WNBA and the referees.
While Caitlin dealt with the pandemonium of being the center of attention, the officials were unaware of how quickly one woman could create a whole no-go zone around her teammate, turning every threat into a chance for demolition. Sophie turned into the steel-spine storm chaser with a sharper memory than her crossover. While the league was scheming and whispering, Sophie strapped on metaphorical brass knuckles to make sure no one forgot. This wasn't about data, sheets, or highlights, but rather about making sure Clark didn't have to cringe every time someone ended up with a loose elbow. Although the league was unaware of it, Caitlin wasn't walking in alone. Instead, she had Sophie, who isn't a bodyguard who just walks you to your car and calls it a day. Rather, Sophie is a bodyguard who disassembles the parking lot, flips the car, and then handcuff everyone who even blinks incorrectly on the way out. Because Sophie gives a spiritual awakening for every shift Caitlin receives, and it's always on TV.
This is a constant problem now. You know, it is something that since the beginning I've kind of like backed off on, because physical play is a part of sports. You know, going after a superstar and trying to rough them up a little bit to get in their head is a part of sports. But when it crosses the line, The referees need to do their job.
Sophie went all medieval with no pretensions, no excuses. Just pure primal basketball vengeance wrapped in a ponytail. And a death gaze as the second Sun players tried to be nice with their hard fouls and cunning screens. She didn't even blink before putting herself between Caitlin and danger as if she were we play. Aggressive defense justifications. While their colleague is busy trying to get Clark to become a chiropractic patient, Sophie has been waiting her entire life to go full Terminator, and see, she isn't acting. This isn't contrived. She's truly not here for anyone. Had malicious intent toward Caitlin Clark with a legally dubious screen and enough vigor to incur a punishment retroactively, Sophie is already 10 steps ahead. The game is no longer about defense. Instead, it's about active deterrence, which is that point in a game where a person begins approaching Caitlin with an arrogant demeanor, as though they're going to make a statement. Yes, Sophie notices it before the cameras do, and then they abruptly turn to face the bench. They have no idea why. It's just a survival reflex.
Come on, bro. Caitlin Clark could have really got injured right there, y'all. She could have really got injured by these haters, these jealous, hating players. They just jealous and hating, bro. It's just, she didn't even get ejected.
Your career decisions start to fall apart. Once Sophie Cunningham, my dame, stares you down, and that's the thing Sophie isn't going 50% for. She doesn't calculate fouls and isn't concerned about supporters yelling at her. On social media, even her own team knows the drill, so if you want to trash talk, Sophie is already 6 sentences ahead of you, meaner, and has more receipts than your accountant. She is the WNBA's unofficial sheriff and isn't here to take notes. April. And let's not act careless. This is precisely planned demolition, not anarchy. She will smirk as you hit the hardwood, and then assist her teammate in leaving as if nothing had occurred, protecting Caitlin Clark at all costs and perhaps rebranding the WNBA as a contact sport, with required dental coverage are the only tasks that Sophie needs to complete.
Just go play basketball somewhere else. Your fans will follow you. We will follow you wherever you go. But let this shit crumble and burn to the fucking ground, man. Let the viewership drop below 50%. Let them lose hundreds of millions of dollars again, man. Let them go back into fucking irrelevancy. Nobody giving a damn about none of these players. Just leave.
She's out here delivering full combatant repercussions without seeking permission or casting a vote. And the Sun team could sense the tension rising as players started approaching Clark. Sophie arrived like a caffeine-fueled hawk. With a grudge at feeding time at the zoo, she was the red flag, the warning sign, and the last boss. You would think that perhaps one of the Sun players would remark, hey, maybe we don't start a physical war with a team that's got a certified rage missile in a jersey. However, this was a declaration of war, not only a skirmish, and Sophie was the general in charge. As the dust settled and Caitlin continued to drain jumpers as if nothing had occurred, Sophie stood there like a victorious gladiator, unmoved and utterly uninterested in your post-game commentary. Artillery and the battlefield were all in one.
You just put yourself in the Dejanay Carrington box. You dirty slime ball player, you come and blindside Caitlin Clark. Marina Mabry assaulted and tried to fight Caitlin Clark today. This is ridiculous. WNBA, Kathy Engelberg, do something. Do y'all want to go back to 55 to 60% of the people not watching shit again? I normally don't cuss in my vlogs, but forget that. This was bullshit.
Since Sophie doesn't require approval, she doesn't give a damn about appearances. And she doesn't care if your PR staff believes she's the forceful. She came to enforce peace by causing as much disturbance as possible. And let's face it, Every team in the league is aware now if you even sneeze in Clark's direction. Like an elite bodyguard with built-in rage sensors, Sophie is already loading, up with more intensity than a Marvel villain. Her goal is to steal your breath, ideally while blocking your layup and giving you a look that will haunt your off-season workouts. When she senses a change in vibe, she goes DEFCON 1. Sophie gives you an uninvited chiropractic adjustment after someone disrespects her teammates. You try to chirp during a timeout, but Sophie is waiting on the bench with her arms crossed, acting like your frustrated gym teacher. It's almost poetic when someone does that.
Clark and JC kind of scuffle going on, right?
Even commentators are unsure of how to respond to her rewriting of the team spirit rule book to read, "Don't let me end your season." They are attempting to portray it as competitive zeal, but they are secretly grateful that she hasn't jumped into the booth and blocked them for uttering a stupid statement. Fans are beginning to realize that this isn't team chemistry but rather planned retaliation, and they're not just watching to watch Caitlin drop 30. They're also watching to see Sophie decide to vent her rage in response to each of the last 5 games uncalled fouls. Basketball has evolved into performance art. 1 minute it's a full-on standoff between Sophie and anyone brave or stupid enough to try their luck. She's more than just a player, she's a deterrent. You know how some animals in nature use their bright colors to alert predators? That they're dangerous? The expression on Sophie's face as she detects foul play. Because by now the entire WNBA has realized that if you mess with Caitlin, you're out of basketball and going into a personal Survivor episode in which Sophie is the fire, the storm, and the tribal council all together.
Open season on Caitlin Clark, and the special whistle that she supposedly gets goes in the other direction. Flagrantly so. They gotta put it to an end. I mean, she's the most valuable player in the league in the most literal sense. And somehow she gets the opposite of superstar treatment.
She is here to remind you loudly and enthusiastically that bullying will be met with equal and opposite annihilation. And she will do it with a smile that says, "Try me again and you'll need therapy because this is the Sophie Cunningham era now." And if Caitlin Clark is the future of the league, then Sophie's the security clearance. She doesn't argue, she acts, she doesn't protest, she stops it. When Sophie folds you into a new yoga stance, she's the insurance policy. If you want to make a reputation for yourself off a dirty play, you'll be doing so while trying to breathe through your armpit. The WNBA and the bouncer the line in the sand have become much more entertaining because Sophie Cunningham doesn't employ subtlety. Instead, she makes loud, forceful, and unmistakable remarks with a message that is very apparent. Sophie declared that Caitlin Clark was untouchable, so if you disagree, you had better pack a helmet and say a prayer because Sophie is coming and bringing the storm.